Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Denver Sports Betting Show, sponsored by Fan Day Nation. I'm your host, Michaela Nagel, and I'm here with Stephanie Klein. Today, we're going to dive deep into her fighting career. She has been in the scene of MMA and Jiu Jitsu. But first, big shout out to our sponsors, Gardner Roofing. Are you looking for a roofer you can trust? Gardner Roofing is Colorado expert roofing team, family owned, and proudly serving the community since 1998. At Gardner Roofing, they don't just build roofs, they build relationships. With unmatched craftsmanship, honest pricing, and a team that treats you like family, it's no wonder customers keep coming back and bringing their friends. When it's time for a new roof, repairs, or just honest advice, turn to the name Colorado has trusted for over 27 years, Gardner Roofing. So if your roof needs some love or you just want advice, you can visit gardnerroofs.com or give them a call at 303-332-6224. Their family has your family covered. Well, thanks, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. I know you talked about it a little bit before, but could you just give everyone a rundown of why you got into fighting in the first place?
Yeah, my brother-in-law trained at Zingano, and I think when my sister first got with him, he was like a brown belt. So he had already been training for a really long time. And he was just encouraging me to train consistently. And then when I had my son, I was just kind of looking for kind of like, a way to get back into shape, and like CrossFit and yoga and stuff was just like not vibing with me. So I finally gave it a try. And then the day I stepped on the mats, I just like fell in love. So I'm just naturally a competitive person. I just loved the like natural flow state you kind of get in when you're on the mats. It just like resonated. So, and then awesome. I just was naturally good at it. So
yeah, nice. Yeah. Absolutely. Obviously MMA in Colorado is pretty big. They have a lot of gyms everywhere, and the UFC scene is big. I know you stopped doing MMA about a year ago and now you're fully in Jiu Jitsu, but how does it just being so around you all the time, how does that help you training personally and specifically to your skill?
Even though I stepped away from MMA and I'm in the jiu-jitsu scene a little bit heavily, now I've always been in the jiu-jitsu scene pretty heavily, but most fighters are also in the jiu-jitsu scene. So even when I'm not fighting MMA, I'm kind of like, grappling with some of like the high-level fighters, getting them ready for camps, also getting myself ready for camps. Yeah. So I think it just transitions well in general. So I'm around it. I think that's what you're asking, right?
Yeah. Just because it's so popular here.
Yeah, so I'm around it, but we're all kind of intermixed, Okay. It's not like we're segregated. I mean, a lot of UFC fighters compete in local jiu-jitsu tournaments and world tournaments and all that stuff. So we see them on the mats regularly. Yeah. Grappling is a huge part of fighting. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Just being a woman in a male-dominated sport, what has been like the biggest misconception people say about women in combat sports, or what have you seen?
I don't know. I don't. That's a good question. Like, I think it's just like, I guess the misconception would be that like maybe women have to dial down their training like when they're with men, but it's not true. I mean, I compete at the same, like train at the same levels as them. Men don't treat you any differently. There are like, I think, roles in the room, like as far as respect and like, men not just like outpowering you and grappling when, they're like 5 times your size or whatever like that. So there's always like, it's still a safe space. So I think maybe the misconception is that like, because there's a lot of men, women aren't necessarily comfortable or in a safe space, but that's not true at all. No matter what gym I've ever trained at, I've always had or felt like I've been in like a safe space with the men I've trained with. So
well, good.
Yeah,
that's really.
I mean, there's like one-offs, of situations, but
of course.
It's definitely a very respectful sport towards women, and I think you gain respect over time, as you put your time on the mats and stuff. So
yeah, absolutely. What has been your biggest challenge so far in the last 9 years that you've been fighting?
Probably like just staying consistent. Like it's not a challenge. Like I was consistent for 9 years, just constantly, in camps, fighting, training jujitsu, all that stuff. And then like this last year when I stopped fighting MMA, I was like, I love jujitsu and I'm going to always train and compete at a high level. But my biggest challenge is like, how do I do that and live a life outside of that sport too? So it's like, I want to travel and see the world and not be in a gym every time I go on vacation. So it's like balance. So finding balance has been like my biggest challenge. And I'm learning to do that. Absolutely. And not beat myself up that I'm not training as much or as hard, even though like, I need to for camps and stuff like that. But it is hard to find balance. It consumes a little bit of your life sometimes.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just speaking of training and doing all of these things, like it's hard to kind of get in that mindset. And what has been like the biggest challenge of your training that you found since you started, and maybe the biggest switch that you've had to make in like your personal lifestyle?
Yeah, I think, like I said, balance is just like diet is hard to maintain when you're training at that level and like you're cutting weight consistently to make these fight weights. And it can be like pretty like tough on the body, like the big weight cuts and stuff. So now that I'm not fighting anymore, I feel like I've gained, but I've also am at a healthy weight, like where I like I can maintain like a healthy diet and not worry about counting calories because I train a ton and I still feel good and confident about my body. So it's just like, but I will say that that's kind of tough, like to like the weight fluctuations.
Absolutely. Yeah. What advice would you give to a young girl that wanted to join mixed martial arts or jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think like at first it can be like daunting or scary because it is like a lot of men on the mats. And I think even when my brother-in-law convinced me to train, he was like, just go. I was like, no, it's for dudes. Like, I don't want sweaty dudes all over me all the time. Like,
that's not fun.
Yeah. So like, I was like, I'll get claustrophobic, all that stuff. But I think like once you go, it's just getting there. And then you realize like it's a community of people, like you're learning. It's like a never-ending chess game. It's so much fun, and it's just like it's such a confidence builder. It's just like getting on the mats is like first step, and finding like a group of like a gym that has like a solid women's team, you know, so you feel confident in like going to a women's class first if you don't.
Yeah, that's awesome. What are your long-term goals that you want to do with jiu-jitsu?
I just honestly want to train and compete as long as possible because I love the sport. You know, I like to teach and stuff, but I don't want to open my own gym. I don't want the business side of fighting. I just want to enjoy it and love it, and like I don't want to take the joy out of the sport I love. So not that like owning a gym does that, and like I like kudos to all the people that share their knowledge and pass it down, like because I would be nothing without you. But I like teaching and owning a gym isn't necessarily for me. So but I still want to help with like people's camps and training and fighting and like get the training in I need and compete at high levels until I can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What does success mean to you in and out of the ring?
In the ring, it's not necessarily winning or losing. It's just like, did I show up and like put my skills to the test, Like if success for me is like, okay, I trained and I know I trained enough to like show up. Like I know I didn't cut any corners or like that's success to me. And like success off the mats is like bringing the same mentality off the mats. It's like, are you showing up for yourself daily? Getting to work on time, eating healthy, going to the gym, showing up for your kids, educating yourself, all of that stuff. So it's just bringing that same discipline off the mats.
Yeah, absolutely. My last question for you is, how do you want to be remembered?
As an exciting grappler, or just someone like who's down, like, I jumped in the MMA scene at 29,
Wow.
which is like pretty like late, and it's like it's never too late, really. I've had a really successful career, so it's just like that. You can do anything, really, if you put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. This has been the Denver Sports Betting Show, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.